how did you end up co-founding Sales Message? And then kind of on top of that, because obviously you've done this multiple times, that you set up multiple businesses. What's your experience of running a business kind of fully remote now? Or I don't know, what's happened, and how's that
Yeah.
changed in the last 2 years or so?
Yeah. I mean, Sales Message came from like frustration. And so in 2015, I wrote really just out of frustration a 3-part blog series, and the title of it was called "The Death of Call Loop." Call Loop was running, it was doing well, but it wasn't like growing. It was just sort of a zombie sort of startup, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, I felt the need that I had to make a change. And so I wrote this 3-part series, and I sent the email out, which the subject line was "The Death of Call Loop." I sent it out to our
So
list.
this 3-part, just to paint a picture in my head, this 3-part was. Did we have to wait for part 2, part 3, or was it all at once?
It dripped out over about a week.
Okay.
And so, which, people were going crazy. So, but it was something I felt I had to do, like not even,
Yeah.
like for me, for my own sanity. And so I sent it out to about 34,000 people. And it just like, the first post was really about, how I built a business that I secretly despised. And so, I got into it thinking like, oh, this is going to be great. But the reality is we didn't have great tech. We didn't have a great development team. And so like things were breaking. And I wouldn't say that no one cared, but it was like, I cared a lot more than everybody else.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so it was like, it was on my back to like fix all the problems. And so, and it just became like, oh my gosh, like everything is on me. And
Yeah.
so I wrote this, and just really, it really told the story of like of Call Loop. And people were wanting new features, they were wanting things fixed, and it was like my hands were like shackled because it was like we couldn't do it. So the end of it, the third post, which again took like 7 days, like going through the whole thing, and people were leaving comments like, "Oh my god, I can't believe you did this!" Like "F off," all these sort of like
Yeah. Yeah.
comments. And, it was pretty gnarly. It was
How
pretty
big was
pretty nasty.
the business at the time?
I think we were doing about 50 grand a month, right? But it was
And in
sort of
terms of
up and down.
employees?
I think we were at maybe 7 or 8 at the time.
Okay.
Yeah, but it was like very flat for such a really long time, and it was just constantly breaking. So like, sure, it was making money, but it was just like constantly like breaking, and like people texting me and calling, and like it was overwhelming, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I couldn't fix it, so I just felt helpless to like solve it. And um, so the third sort of post was I wanted to reinvent it. And so it was basically, hey, follow my journey as I reinvent Call Loop from the ground up. And you'll get an insider view into us sort of rebuilding it, because I wanted to build a better company. I wanted to build a better product, all these things that I wanted to do. And it was just my line in the sand of like, enough is enough. I can't keep doing this. And so after that, super pumped. And after about a month and a half working on sort of Call Loop 2.0, I asked my developer, Andrew, I said, hey, man, how long is it going to take? How long do you think? He's like, oh, about 1.5 years. I'm like, no.
No.
So I sort of figured that, but I was like, oh my gosh, what am I getting into? So anyhow, so we pivoted. I was like, all right, well, let's do this other product idea I had. It was called Kick a Conference, which was a conference call platform. After about a year and no traction and about $1,500 in revenue, I'm like, we can't do this. So we pulled that. It was a great product, but like nobody wanted it. And I knew, like, don't create something people don't want. I knew that, but I made that mistake because I was like, I wanted to build the product, and but nobody wanted it. And so about 6 months into that, I was like, maybe with Sales Message, I can and not even sales message wasn't even an idea, but I'm like, people want like conversational SMS. And so I was like, oh, and I really mocked up something. I actually
Where
posted.
did that intuition come from? Is it because you were used to conversing? Was it a business or like a
Well,
consultant or a
yeah,
mentor that?
Call Loop
Okay,
does SMS marketing. It does
yeah,
outbound calling. And so, there were customers that were just saying like, hey, I want this, I want this, I want this. And I just, over time, you got to realize like, wow, like people want that. And we
you
couldn't
need
really do
yes,
it. Yeah. And we couldn't do that with Call Loop just because it wasn't built for that.
yeah,
And so it was like, okay, well, and it really just started with a new question, was like, what would I do to put myself out of business?
hmm,
And I was like, let me break out a piece of paper, and I would do this, 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 this. Like, it's a very clear question. What would I do to put myself out of business? And so I just wrote a little plan. I'm like, I would do like a conversational SMS. It's a different market. I go over here. I did, make it more SaaS subscription. So I just built like basically things that would be better.
mhm,
Um, and so that's where it came from. And I said, hey, we made the mistake of like spending a year on a product nobody wanted. It didn't make any money. Let's not make that mistake again. And so I said, before we write a line of code, don't touch anything. Let me do a webinar. And so I put together a webinar, and 2 days later hosted it and had about $4,500 in sales, give or take, of me pre-selling sales message.
yeah,
Hey, here's the slides. Here's what we're going to do. Here's what's going to do. Here's this. Blah, blah, blah. And I made an offer, and we made about that, between four and $5,000.
yeah,
And I was like, cool, let's do it. Let's go. And so we made more money just doing a webinar, selling a product we didn't have, a product that we had and that nobody wanted. And so that was just a reiteration of a concept of like, don't build something people don't want. So that was it. And so Call Loop or Sales Message started from that. And we started building it, and it's just been growing ever since. And there's a lot to the story, but I ended
yeah,
up not working out with my original co-founder, and so in COVID, I went from like a development team down to zero, and I was like, what are we going to do? And
yeah,
so since then, I found an amazing co-founder, and now we're team of 15 developers, team of 27 people. So
amazing.
it's been a journey to get here, but there's so many good stories
Yeah.
of the trenches of building a software company.